Lab G, Advanced Scripting Review. As always, the purpose of this nugget is to review the lab items, and the assumption is that you've taken some time to download the lab document and tried to complete the lab items on your own. What I'm going to show you are just sample solutions. They're not necessarily the only correct answers. So we are once again starting in Windows 8 so that I can use the version 3 of the ISE, but everything I will be doing here should be equally applicable to version 2 and later. The only difference here is because I'm going to be using Microsoft's Active Directory module, none of your client operating systems actually come with that. You can get it for Windows 7, Windows 8, and later. It's part of the Remote Server Administration Toolkit, or RSAT. Natively, the Active Directory module is capable of talking to any domain controller, Windows Server 2008 R2 or later. Now, if you've got older domain controllers going all the way back to 2003, you simply need to download and install Microsoft's Active Directory Management Gateway service. That's a free download. That can install on anything back to 2003. It only needs to be on one domain controller in your environment. And it just provides a service endpoint that the Active Directory commandlets can talk to in order to manage the domain. So with prerequisites out of the way, let's get started. We're supposed to be creating a module here. So I like to get the saving of the module file out of the way. And this is supposed to be called Help Desk Tools. So let's create a folder for that. Module names really should not contain spaces. Makes them a lot easier for everyone to work with. helpdesktools.psm1, making sure that the module folder and the file name are identical. That way everything will match up. Now this is going to include an advanced function called new corp user. And as an advanced function, we need to make sure we put in the commandlet binding attribute. Now, this is going to be making a change to the system. So although I don't think it was specifically asked for in the lab, I'm just scanning the lab instructions here real quick. I don't think this was asked for. I'm going to say that it supports should process with a confirm impact of medium. Setting it to medium means that most systems will not force this to be an are you sure, yes, no by default. So you're going to have to kind of decide what you would do with this in your environment. I don't want to be prompted by default if I'm sure. So that's why I set it there. I didn't set it for low because I am creating a new security principle. So I mean, there is an importance to that. So I don't want to be prompted automatically, but it's kind of important to me is medium. Let's put in a parameter block. Now we've got a bunch of parameters here. So I'm just going to kind of create the first one. Parameter, I'm going to make them all mandatory. Value from pipeline by property name. True. And this is going to be a string. And it is going to be, I'm looking at the list, first name. $, first name, comma. So that's going to let me use this as kind of a template because we're supposed to do first name, last name, department, city, and postal code. The reason I have to do these as value from pipeline by property name is that they're all going to be strings. Within a given parameter set, you can only have one parameter that accepts by value for a given data type. Now, given that these are all the same data type, I could only have one of them accept by value, and to me that doesn't make any sense. I really want these to come in by property name. I'm going to do department, city, and postal code. Real quick scan to make sure all the red squigglies went away. It looks like they did. Now this says I'm also supposed to be setting up a module level variable called corp user container preference, which is an empty string by default. Yes. Okay. So here inside my function, if there's really several ways you could write this. I am going to, I guess, just do this in a process block. Yeah, because I can accept pipeline input, but this doesn't really say I need to accept multiples otherwise. So here's what happens. I do this in a process block. If I were to pipe in objects that contain a first name, last name, department, city, and postal code property, my process block will run one time for each object I pipe in, and I'm going to do this in the examples when we test this out. Each of these will only contain one value at a time. If you're going to run this manually and just run it manually, if you're going to specify the parameters manually instead of piping in the data, you're only going to specify one user at a time. So none of these have got the additional square brackets that indicate multiple values. And that means inside my process block, I know I'm only ever going to be doing one user at a time, so therefore I don't actually have to loop through anything. There's no for each object or for each construct going in here. So I should create a logon name, so I need to do that. Logon equals first name. Do this in double quotes, make it easier. First name dot last name. And let's just go ahead and set up the command now. New AD user. I guess we can just start feeding it parameters now. SAM account name, logon. The name of the account, I'll just do as the same logon. First, oh no, it's not called first name. It's called is it given name. First name. Wow, this is really going to stretch on a bit because I've got all these parameters. You know what? Instead of doing this, let's build it as a hash table. So we'll start this over. Given name equals first name. Now, there's a little trick here. Instead of having to pop up the help, let's close this out so I get my tab completion. I'm just going to put the command down here because it allows me to quickly type and see what the proper parameter names are. So that one was surname for last name. And then I know I've got SAM account name equals logon. I'm going to go ahead and use that same thing for the main name account or parameter. I know department is department. What else we got? City is definitely city. I want to quickly check postal code. Postal code. Okay, good. Just to make sure I get those right. Alrighty. So now I can just splat those parameters in there without the $sign. Now it's my hope that by saying my entire function supports should process, that if someone runs this with -confirm or -whatif, that will inherit down to this command because I know it does too. So I'm not actually going to implement my own should process support because the only command I'm running ought to support it on its own. The other thing I need to do is deal with the container where this is going. So what I've said here is if corp user container preference is blank, then I will allow new AD user to create new accounts in the domain's default container. Now there's no way I can know up front what that is. I know that in a fresh Active Directory domain it would be the user's container. But sitting here right now I don't know the domain name, so I can't specify the fully qualified domain name of the user's container. And I don't know that whatever this is running against, whatever domain I'm creating the user in, I don't know that someone hasn't reconfigured the domain to maybe have a different default container. So that means I need to kind of have a couple different versions of this command. I need to have the first one, if corp user container preference is blank blank, then I want to just run new AD user with the parameters I've given it. And that's going to allow it to create the new user in the default container. Otherwise, if corp user container is not blank, I need to decide where I'm going to create this, and it's in, I believe it's in path, but this is where I actually do, I think, need to read the help. Let's hop down here to the command line real quick. Help new AD user -full. Put that up in a window for me. Oops, I don't want full, I just want show window. There we go. So I need to get down to this path parameter. I think that's the one that I used to tell it where to create the user. I just want to check. P path. Oh, and I don't have the full help on here apparently, because it's not actually telling me that. Yeah, this is just the help that PowerShell is constructing on its own. So I haven't run update help. Well, I don't feel like doing it now. I'll hope for the best. So down here, new AD user, still with my normal params, but I'm also going to add the path that's in corp user container preference. See, this way, if this is blank, I don't have to know what the default path is. I'll just let the command tell the domain, create this wherever the default is. But if this is not blank, then I'll tell it to create the new user in the specified path. Now, because my module only contains this function and this variable, and I want them both to be visible, I do not have to do export module member, but I'm going to anyway, just for fun. Export module member, function, new corp user, and then variable corp user container preference. Noting that I'm giving it the variable name, which does not include the $sign. Save. All right. This is done. We're ready to test it. In order to test things, I am just going to pop open a plain PowerShell console. This ensures I'm kind of starting from scratch, that I'm getting a fresh go at this. And now we begin. New corp user, first name. I think I have a username of my own in there, so let's just use good old John Doe. We'll put him in Denver, put him in the IT department. I have no idea what the postal codes are there. Let's just use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cannot validate argument on parameter path. The argument is null or empty. Okay, that's a problem, because corp user container preference is empty, and so I was thinking this logic would run this, where I didn't supply a path parameter, but we wound up down here on line 25. And I think I just spotted the problem. You see what happens when you work in too many different programming languages? You start forgetting that PowerShell's comparison operator is -EQ, not an equal sign. So this was actually assigning blank blank to corp user preference. The result of that operation, it happens to be false. There's no result, and so it came down here. So let's save that. Important concept when you're testing modules is to make sure you remove the module. Let's try him again. Ah, that worked. Let's see if it actually worked. Get AD user -filter star. Hey, there he is. Okay, so now let's try the pipeline input technique. Let's just use Notepad for this. We'll create a new file. First name, last name, department, city, postal code. Did I check down here? I want to make sure that this pulled in the right distinguished name. Yeah, John.Doe is his canonical name. So that was his name, and it would have been his SAM account name too. Good. Just want to make sure my little trick there worked. So let's just make up some names. New York City. We'll save that. And now let's import CSV new users. So we get two objects. Each of those have got 5 properties: first name, last name, department, city, postal code. Let's pipe that to new corp user. And do a get AD user. And there we go. We get Kathy Friendly and Rhonda Rhodes. Now the next thing we need to do is try that preference variable, that corp user container preference, to see if we can have these created in a new location. Let's see, get AD organizational unit. I don't know what organizational units I've actually got to work with. Oh, none. All right, well, we need to make one then. New AD organizational unit. I've never done this with the command line before. We'll see if it works. Name, let's just call it people. Well, that was easy. So if I get them all, it says I do have one called people. Excellent. So now I just need to be able to specify that. So let's try this one more time. Let's grab the DN of this OU. Corp user container preference equals that. Now, new corp user, first name, Jane, last name, Doe, husband and wife team working together at the same company. It's pretty cool. Department, put her in sales, city, forget where he lived, Denver. Maybe they're separated. Postal code, 12345. Get AD user minus filter star. There's Jane, and we can't tell exactly, oh yeah, we can tell where she lives. She's in the people OU, and that's everything worked perfectly. That's great. So we've got a working module. I hope you were able to get something similar in your own effort. So that's our quick review. Keep in mind, as always, just because you got a slightly different answer doesn't mean you were wrong. That's why I call these sample solutions and not answers. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.